There's this fear of the unknown. How do I push past it? You're not going to grow unless you push past the fear.
Hey, you're going to love this episode. Today we have Jude David. He is the CEO of Final Ascent. You may hear me talk a lot about the differences between business owners and entrepreneurs and preparing for a healthy, wealthy exit. Well, this guy lives it. And I want you to tune in and listen to what it takes, what kind of characteristics most of the entrepreneurs he's ever dealt with, they pretty much all have. Here's Jude's episode.
So I ended up in law school by happenstance. I went to school thinking I was going to be a Wall Street guy, head up to New York, work for Goldman Sachs. And I made it through and was, all systems go. And then the housing market collapsed. Yeah. And a lot of folks were losing jobs up in Wall Street. A lot of the big banks closed, and there were no jobs to be had for sure. So I went back to law school and MBA school. Ended up playing a lot of golf in MBA school, and worked on that game a little bit. That was a lot of fun. And then law school was a grind, but also enjoyable as well. And got out of school, moved back to Lafayette, worked for Hank Perrette and Dennis Doe's, and did a lot of corporate work. Commercial litigation, but a lot more mergers and acquisitions, company formations, and advising business owners. I just developed a real passion for it. I really realized that these guys who have built businesses, they're a different animal. They are a different kind of individual, and most people, I hadn't seen it before that point in my life, but most people go through life thinking, I need to work my way up the ladder. I need to de-risk myself. So I get a job that's, very safe, and money is, coming out of my paycheck every month and going into a 401k. And, if I do that until I'm 65, I get to retire and all that. And that's the very safe way to live. It makes a lot of sense for most people, but entrepreneurs are just a different animal.
Misunderstood.
Oh, and I loved it from the first moment I started seeing these people. I started seeing people who had put everything on the line. They had nothing in a 401k. There was never anything in a 401k. And if anything, they had leveraged their house as much as they possibly could so they could put that into their business. Yeah. And they were not de-risking. They were risking. They're
putting
100%
more
risking.
And more. But they're also investing in themselves. Yeah. In what they believe in. So what I loved is most of the people that you probably saw made it. Would that be correct? At least on the acquisition side, maybe the merger side, right?
Yeah. So I'd say that's probably 2/3 of the folks I saw, and then maybe 1/3 of them not so much. Some of them fell on hard times, and really that's where the litigation side of the practice kicked up. Is a lot of times partners got at it with each other, or things didn't go as expected, and so you saw both sides, and I think that's invaluable experience as well, being able to see all the things that didn't work. Yeah, and being able to learn from those.
I know you as an entrepreneur, and do you feel like you were always had that entrepreneur mindset, that desire to own a wide range of companies, or when did that kick in?
Yeah, I think I've always had a little bit of it. I've always tried to find needs out in the world, and how do I fill that need and then get paid for it? I mean, that's just an exciting thing, whether it's, cutting somebody's grass or cleaning their pool or, walking their dogs or babysitting their kids or whatever it is. You go, okay, there's a need. How do I address that need, and how do I get a little money from it? I teach it to my kids now, running the lemonade stands or whatever it is.
That's right.
Just, how do we find a need, whatever it is out in the world, and fill it? Back in college, I used to install TVs and audio video systems for people.
No kidding.
I did that for our company for a little bit. And then I realized, gosh, if I did this on my own, I could make a lot more money doing it. Yep. And then, sure enough, my little company was born. And then, the next thing and the next thing after that. Yeah, I fell into the same trap that a lot of people do. You go get really well educated. You invest a lot in education, a lot of time, a lot of money. And, the natural progression from that is, let me go get a job that's very safe and secure. It was an amazing experience working as a lawyer, working for all these folks. But I was never going to be happy doing that. I mean, absolutely never fulfilled watching somebody else succeed and just assisting in that journey. It was always going to be a matter of, how do I figure out how to do this for myself?
No doubt about it, man. And I love what you said about fulfilling a need or solving a problem, right? If there's a problem out there that you can get paid to solve, that's what business is all about.
Well, people don't get that. So I mean, the natural thing that happens when you have employees is some portion of them are going to come to you regularly and ask, can I make more money? You
Yeah.
know, I'm spending everything I make and I need a little bit more money.
That's right.
And, you know, that's a whole tangent, but the more money I pay you, the more money you're going to spend. And we're going to keep having this conversation year after year.
Yeah.
And so the answer might be no whenever we have that conversation. I'm certainly going to try to teach you more than I'm going to try to just hand you more money to hang yourself with.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
But most people don't seem to really understand that you get paid for value in the world.
100. And we all are walking around with this price tag on our head. You know, fry cook at Sonic's making $11 an hour.
Yeah.
You raise your value and you get paid more.
You don't get paid $11 an hour to be a fry cook because that's what the market pays for fry cooks.
That's right.
You get paid because that's the amount of value you've chosen to bring into the world. You said the skill that I'm going to acquire is to be able to be a fry cook at Sonic. And
That's right.
There's a certain amount of value there, and your employer can pay a certain amount of money for that value. I'm constantly trying to teach people that if you want more money and you want to succeed more in life, find a way to create more value.
Correct. And your value on the open market will increase.
Absolutely.
You know, and so many business owners, entrepreneurs, you know, they don't want to train because they're afraid somebody's going to come and poach them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is stinking thinking.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, you got to train them. The worst thing you can do is not train them and they stay with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, do you want the same people in the same roles long term? I don't think so. The people that are really good, you want them to find ways to move up and be more fulfilled and do more for your organization. The people that aren't so great, you want them to find a way to work somewhere else.
That's right.
And so you want to push all the people that work for you, not just because it's good for you, but because it's good for them. And, you know, I keep, you know, a stack of several different books in my office, but, you know, one of those is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I love it whenever people ask me for mentorship so I can hand them a copy and say, go read this and come back and talk to me about it. The reason being, I want to teach you to think about creating value in the world and stop thinking about how to earn a paycheck. Now, the natural progression of that, if you take it to heart, is you're going to come back to me and say, I don't think I'm meant to be your employee anymore. I think I'm meant to go create some extra value out in the world.
Wow.
And I hope they do that.
Yeah.
Man, even the best people that work for me, I hope that they figure out that they can create a lot of value in the world and enrich themselves in the process.
That's right.
And maybe they come back to me and say, "Hey, but I need a business partner. You know, let's do it together."
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Perfect. I'd love to do that.
So here's what's interesting. I want to come back up because you mentioned your kids and you mentioned the trap that you can get in through education. You're highly educated, law degree, MBA, you know, undergraduate. Tell me your philosophy when you talk to your kids about the future, because the whole game has changed when it comes to that. So what do you think?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me what their kids should go into, and I think 2 or 3 years ago I was telling them coding and AI. You know,
Sure.
that's the next frontier, and you want to be in it.
That's right.
And then now the AI is better at coding than the human beings.
Yeah, that correct.
It's like, well, that was bad advice. Maybe I shouldn't have told you to do that. I think hard work is always going to have a place in the world, though. So, you know, the number one thing is, you know, having a good vision and being able to execute really well through hard work. And if you figure out what you're really passionate about in life, what you want to do and how you want to grow, the thing I tell young people now is find the person that's the absolute best at doing that out in the world. You know, if you want to do mergers and acquisitions, find the best M&A guy. You want to be a lawyer, find the best lawyer you can find who practices the kind of law you want.
Yep.
Whatever it is, you know, pick your industry, find the one who's best, and then talk to them, figure out what they need, and figure out how to give it to them. You know, if they need somebody to wash their car every week, say, I'll show up and wash your car every week. But what I want in return is a little mentorship.
I love it. Did you have mentors growing up?
You know, I had all the usual ones, family and you know, friends and the like. I never did that particular thing, you know, of, you know, showing up to a particular person and finding a way to have them be my mentor. But I had great people who mentored me nonetheless. You know, my law partners were great mentors. The business folks I worked for were good mentors. I had incredible clients who were fantastic mentors.
You often learn from your clients.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I was in such a fortunate spot because my clients were some of the best entrepreneurs you could possibly meet in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And I learned so much from them. And I realized what made them tick was so different from what makes most people tick.
Have you seen like themes or like certain things that they all had, like a little bit of trend?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing that you'll see is most people try to avoid risk in life. And, as a Christian, you see that most people are trying to avoid suffering, and we as Christians find a way to endure suffering with hope.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in business and everywhere else in life. People are trying to de-risk, trying to avoid any potential suffering, any potential downfall. And so they end up playing this very safe route that's just what makes me happy today, what makes me feel very comfortable in the life I'm living. And you just never grow as a human being doing that. I find that entrepreneurs tend to have a few characteristics that really stand out. One, they're constantly pushing themselves. They are reading new books, watching new things that are educational, digging their hands into new skills and new hobbies and new this to try to figure things out because it expands their mind. It's not just, I want to do something different. It's how do I expand my mind a little bit? And so that lifelong love of learning really makes a difference for entrepreneurs. But probably the biggest thing that makes entrepreneurs stand out is the risk they're willing to take. They are willing to invest everything. They're willing to put everything on the line for every deal that they're willing to do. And most people just won't do that. And I've had so many people approach me with a business idea saying, hey, I'd love to do this. I always wanted to go and, be an entrepreneur. I had this business idea. I'd love to do it. And I said, well, what's stopping you? I'll partner with you today. Let's do it together. We'll partner today. And it's, my job is, paying me really well. And, I've got this pension or this, retirement plan or this other thing. I've got the kids on their way to college and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, correct.
Most folks are very comfortable living in that approach, working their way up those rungs of the ladder. And then eventually it lets you retire. But entrepreneurs are just wired differently.
They're wired differently. And like I said earlier, they're misunderstood. Often they're misunderstood by their closest friends and loved ones,
Yeah.
I know my wife is kind of pragmatic and, real structured, and I am just, let's go.
Yeah.
What about Ashley? Is she what's her temperament?
So Ashley would never do this wild entrepreneurial thing that I do. She did
She obviously supports you though in this.
Oh, she does. She does. She actually bought a business this year.
No way. What?
So it's called Pink Salt Riot. It's a women's jewelry business. But it's all about fighting the lies that the devil will tell you and combating those with the Lord's truths. And so all of her products are centered around, the Lord's truths and where he's trying to guide you.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
steering away
she's
from
going to be our
those
next guest.
Oh yeah, she should come on.
She should.
She's fantastic. No, I don't think she would have done the high risk entrepreneurial thing. But she's taking to this business thing pretty well.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I for those who don't know what you've been able to accomplish, you got into the law practice. You saw a lot of mergers and acquisitions and deals and things like that. When did you strike out on your own and do that with Final Ascent?
Yep. So around 2017,
Okay.
made the decision that I wanted to do investment banking, helping business owners to start their own or to sell their businesses. So business owners that have spent time growing a business, helping to find an exit for it. So, I had done that in law, but usually what happened is, I got the tail end of the deal. So people come to me and they say, I've got this letter of intent. I found a buyer. We've got the terms ironed out, and I need you to help me make this deal happen. And so I learned a lot from that experience. But one of the things that I learned is that most people create half-baked deals.
Yeah. When they like done for you, done do-it-yourself kind of deals?
Yeah, do-it-yourself kind of deals. Or they get the wrong advisors. If you go hire an investment banker or an M&A advisor, typically they're working on a commission.
Yep.
And so they're incentivized to get you the highest top line number in your transaction, even if that's not the best overall situation for you. I'll give you an example. I had a client, love this client. He sold his business for about $16 million, right before oil collapsed. And he was gung-ho about selling for all cash because he wanted to be able to walk away at the closing table
just
and not
finish
think
done.
about it anymore.
Yeah.
And his advisors kept bringing him all these deals that were big earnout, some rollover equity, some this, some that, all this structure, but it's because those deals hit $20 million. And the commission on $20 million is bigger than the commission on $16 million. Well, they kind of buried the lead on, there was this cash deal sitting out there that he could have taken that he really liked. And whenever he found out about it, he cut the advisor out and tried to do it. Now, we ended up having to work out the deal with the advisor and pay them the commission anyway. But
Sure. At least the commission on the 16.
Yeah, commission on the 16, not on the 20. But there's a real lesson there. One, you got to really put your client's interest first.
Amen.
And it wasn't just those sorts of situations. It's all these deals that would come along where you have the wrong buyer, the buyer that doesn't achieve the goals of the client.
Yeah.
And it's just taking what's out there instead of, searching for that right buyer for people. And so I built this practice really around, how do we figure out the client's goal? And then how do we help them achieve it? Everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You have small businesses, they tend to have lifestyle buyers. People are going to step into your shoes and try to be you. But once you get into the mid-market, call it, $10 million in revenue, you have a whole world of buyers out there that are professional buyers who buy businesses. And they might be strategic. So they might be in your industry looking to gobble you up and make you a part of what they do. Or they might be a financial buyer, which might be private equity or a family office or just wealthy individuals who are really savvy at doing deals. And, figuring out your goals first helps me to know which one of those we're targeting and what your type of transaction is. For some people, that's all cash at closing and they want to toss the keys to the buyer. For other people, it's selling 60% of their business, growing it with the buyer for another 4 or 5 years, and then selling it together, hopefully having a bigger exit the second time than the first one.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's a final Ascent.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your market? Are you in kind of the mid-size market and you both buy, sell, or
most of what we do
side?
Most of what we do is representing sellers.
Okay.
Not that we don't represent buyers ever, but a lot less of those.
Yeah.
The reason being, I have a real passion for helping people who have never done this before.
Yeah.
And that's most of my clients. Most of my clients have spent 20, 30, 40 years building a business. It's the only thing they've ever done professionally. They put everything they have into growing that business. And because they're an entrepreneur, they think they can do anything, and they think they can go find a buyer on their own.
That is so true.
Right?
That is so true. There's something they need to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't tell you how many of our clients come to me after they've tried on their own and they failed. And they say, okay, I thought I could do it myself, but apparently I can't. And that's fine. That's fine.
It is fine.
The only downside of that is if you've waited until the very end and you're ready to sell now.
Correct.
You don't have time to waste, trying to figure it out on your own. If you have 10 years to sell your business and you want to try on your own, knock yourself out, see how it goes. I think there's a lot of value in having the right advisor by your side, because if you have somebody who's done this hundreds of times, they're able to teach you a lot of things that you weren't going to know on your own.
Correct.
And help you get a lot of extra value out of the deal as well. But you see it all the time that business owners get to that point in the sale process and they don't know what they want. It's
they may not know all the options available to them,
yeah,
too, or structures of deals.
Yeah, and so I love the part of being able to enlighten them, help them understand, wait, this is what the world of possibilities are. And so the first thing I do for anybody who comes along is give them a free valuation.
Yeah, very good.
Hey, here's what your business is worth. If you took it to market, if you went after this kind of buyer, you could expect this. If you went after that kind of buyer, you could expect that. And it's one of those light bulb moments for them. It kind of helps them go, oh, really? Okay, I had no idea. And sometimes it's only worth that.
Well, that's my next question. It's like, what percentage of sellers get to that point? They come to you, they get a valuation, and you basically say, well, you're not ready to sell. Right? What percentage of those guys are out there?
Well, it's a lot of them. It's a real challenge because if you've spent your 20 or 30 or 40 years building a business and it's incredibly successful, and has a lot of net earnings, a lot of EBITDA,
Yep.
chances are it's going to be very sellable. And there might be some other factors that really affect that, and we can help you with it. Probably the biggest one being owner concentration. If you were an
Correct.
owner who wears all the
Dependency.
hats in the business,
no doubt about it. I preach it every day.
yeah, that's a real challenge. And so you need a guy like you to help them, figure out how to get all the right people around them to run the business so that they can step away. And buyers want you to do that before you go to market. They don't want you to do that after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Your business becomes a lot more sellable. You get a lot more value. And so, that can be a challenge in a business that's making a lot of money, but it's usually not. Usually if they've gotten to the point that they're very successful financially, they've probably figured out a lot of those things along the way.
Sure.
The challenge businesses, and it's a lot of them, are the ones that haven't done that. They never figured out how to promote a management team underneath them. They never figured out how to hand off those responsibilities. And as a result, the business never grew past the owner's capacity.
So true.
They kind of hit a ceiling, and you either have to reinvest in the business and invest in a management team and invest in growth, or you just stay at that ceiling forever.
No doubt about it. And that's where I am with this differentiation between business owner and entrepreneur. I mean, do you see a lot of people that are kind of stuck in the mindset of, I'm a business owner and I'm in it running the day-to-day every day. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Yeah. But if you want to sell your company, they're going to have to replace you some kind of way, and the value is going to go down. What stock do you put in with this mindset of differentiating between business owner and entrepreneur?
There's a lot of different ways to go with that. One thing is, I find that the people who are business owners rather than entrepreneurs are the ones who have the hardest time selling.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are married to the idea of being a business owner, married to the idea of sitting at the top, and they don't know what they would do with their life if they didn't have their business. And because of that, they're in their business 24/7 every day, and they wear every hat.
Yeah.
And that's probably the easiest way to describe it. And I think if those people are honest with themselves, they can recognize that in themselves.
Yeah.
I've always had this habit of asking business owners who are going through the sale process what they're going to do after the sale. And some of them have
such a great question.
Oh my gosh. Some of them have such great answers. And it's like, here's the ways I'm going to really reinvest time with my family, and how I'm going to, dig back in philanthropically. I'm working with a business owner right now who is very philanthropic, and he and his wife really want to, help address homelessness and poverty. And they want to go build one of these intentional communities where, there's going to be low income housing and a lot of, community sustainment and all that kind of stuff. Like, wow, that's
impressive.
That guy's an entrepreneur. That is an entrepreneur, because he isn't thinking, oh, this is my business, this is my baby, and once it's gone, I have nothing left.
Correct.
He has already moved on in his mind to, this is the way I'm going to leave my mark on the world.
Yeah.
And my business was a vehicle. I got to do a lot of things by owning this business. I got to grow a lot with the business, but it doesn't define me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs are in love with the idea of growing and of expanding. And if things don't work out, they pivot and they get to the next thing.
That's right.
And non-entrepreneur business owners are the ones that tell you all the stories about how my business was going great until such and such happened.
This happened.
And then it declined, and we never recovered.
That's right. And I define them as run mode and grow mode. You know what I mean? But you apparently have always been in grow mode. And so tell me about when you were an attorney, you went into mergers and acquisitions, and of course you and I think a business partner owned Stately. Am I right?
That's right.
All right. High-end doors and windows, and a beautiful website, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
How did that come about? Was that a deal you saw and said, man, I can't pass this up?
So that happened during COVID.
Okay.
I had this great iron door and window business I was selling in Dallas. And, it's funny because I know businesses are sellable whenever I look at them, and I think to myself, I wonder if I should buy this.
Yeah.
And that happened a lot of times as an investment banker. I'd look at a business and say, oh gosh, this one's exciting. Like, you could really grow this. Maybe I should buy it. And I usually just kind of push those feelings aside and help the owner to sell their business. Well, this one during COVID, the world shut down and nobody's buying and selling companies. And these owners had reached a point that they decided it's time to move on to the next phase of life.
Got it.
They were entrepreneurs. They had accidentally grown this business. They had
No kidding.
yeah, they didn't mean to. They were flipping houses. They needed to buy some iron doors. They bought a few extras and they started selling them on Craigslist. Well, that turned into buying containers of doors to sell, and then suddenly
That's fascinating.
they have a business. And it's like you see that, and you go, oh my gosh, this is there's something here. People really want these, right?
Yeah.
And it was an interesting business. I really liked it, and the world shut down, and these guys were ready to move on. I said, gosh, maybe I should just buy this thing. The world's going to come back.
Yeah.
This isn't the zombie apocalypse. We're not all going to die. We're going to recover from this mini plague, and we're going to come back. And right around that time, my business partner Eric called me up. He was selling software for banks, small regional banks, selling them software packages.
Yeah.
Well, he had the same thing during COVID. Nobody's reinvesting. And so there was zero chance banks were going to implement all these new technological systems, these very expensive multi-million-dollar technological systems during the plague. And so he said, look, this isn't going to work out for me. I want my next role. I want it to be, as a CFO or something along those lines, something I can grow in. And he was living in Dallas at the time. And that happened to be where this business was.
Yeah.
I said, well, all right, I got an idea. What if you buy this business? And he said no. And I said, okay, what if I buy this business, but I hire you to run it? And he said yes to that. And so then he decided he wanted to invest too. And so I said, okay, we'll buy it together and we'll grow it together.
Yeah.
And my brother came on as our third partner. And so it's the three amigos. We bought that business.
Great partnership though.
Yeah. And it was just by happenstance. We
so
happened to get
that
into it.
turned into Stately?
That business still exists. It's Wholesale Iron Doors.
Okay.
WholesaleIronDoors.com. From there, I had another business I was selling in Atlanta that did wood doors and windows. And I said,
this is fascinating.
This is very interesting because if I take iron doors and windows and wood doors and windows, certainly we can mash these two businesses together and sell both products to the same set of customers. And I was fantastically wrong.
Sure.
First of all, I mean they're many hundreds of miles away from each other. The cost of moving product around is astronomical.
Yeah.
So that would have never worked. But also, one of them selling more to homeowners, the other one's selling a lot more to distributors, and just totally incompatible businesses. And it was still very interesting because I learned so much from both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, something that both of those businesses had in common was the custom side. That it was very interesting to see how custom you had to go to demand a higher value.
Yeah.
So, you have all these businesses out in the world that build doors and windows, and they call them custom, but what they mean is configurable. They mean
correct.
You can get our product in your size.
That's right.
And that's not custom in my mind. That's a buying their product in the size that you need. I really was drawn to the true custom nature of it. How do we build something from scratch? Take raw wood and turn it into a beautiful masterpiece for you. And I learned very quickly, you can't do that in normal $1 million and $2 million houses.
For sure.
It
There are limits.
It takes a very, very high dollar house for people to suddenly realize, oh, I can spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on that door. And so we started gravitating towards the really high end. It's how do we go after these higher end projects, big projects with a lot of doors and windows, and suddenly the cost makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we bought several more businesses along the way. We bought one in Albuquerque. We bought one in Las Vegas. We bought one in Long Island.
All like adjacent, right?
Yep.
All kind of the same industry.
All in doors and windows. We hadn't gotten into millwork at that point. And the one up in Long Island was already doing the super high end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first time we really bought into the vision that we were trying to create.
Got it.
But their business is fantastic. They're doing so their facility is 125,000 square feet right outside of the Hamptons in New York. So all those $100 million places on the coast in the Hamptons need these astronomically beautiful doors and windows. And we're able to supply those. And then we do the same thing on the Palm Beach area in Florida and certain other little pockets around the country.
Yeah.
And if you recognize that need. It's okay. We like building custom, but custom doesn't fit for all these customers who are,
Correct.
in the $1 million, $2 million house. We got to identify the right customers with the right need, and then we were able to grow that.
And that's exactly what you were saying when you were talking about the wiring and setting up TVs and stereos, right?
Yeah.
You identified a need and then you went. But what's neat about it is how you learn lessons along the way in the door and window space. You acquired other companies and you had the vision to go toward that need or gap in the marketplace with the very, very high end homes, and you ended up there.
Yeah.
And it's textbook. It's beautiful, but it's hard because I look at you acquiring several companies in the same space, and then you have to make sure that they're all aligned to your vision. How, as the leader, how are you doing it? And because something's working.
For me, I look at it and I can tell the story as all being one big success that got us to where we are.
Yeah.
Not everybody can see it that way. I've had a lot of employees, many of whom we've lost along the way because they tell me that we're building the plane as we're taking off. They can't stand that we don't have the processes that we need. We don't have the right vision on how this one fits into that. And I go, well, we're going to get there. Don't worry about all those details. We've got several great businesses that do several different great things, and we're going to grow all these businesses side by side. And as we grow them, we're going to find the ways to piece them together and grow them as one, or not. We've had certain ones that we said, okay, maybe that one isn't necessarily going to be a fit for this. And, so we sold off our Las Vegas division in October. It wasn't going to be a fit for our high-end custom doors and windows. Yeah. It was a great business. We grew it a lot. We really enjoyed owning that business. But we had kind of taken it to the limit of where we could bring it. And you just kind of recognized, okay, well, now's the time for that one to go off and continue doing its thing, but we aren't going to be able to grow it anymore.
Yeah.
But I think being able to grow through your losses is a really important thing for an entrepreneur. And yeah, we have definitely had a lot of projects that failed along the way.
Yeah.
We've had, some homes that we built doors and windows for that we lost money on. We've had product lines that we started and then ultimately shut down because, oh gosh, I guess I thought it was a good idea, but it wasn't a good idea.
That's right.
And I love those challenges because you grow through all that adversity. You grow through all those shortcomings and the ways that you fail, and then you figure out more and more and more. And so I look back at all of it, all the ways we failed, and I realize, well, that's how we got to where we are today.
Amen. And that's what we do it in life, and we do it as entrepreneurs. But right there is you're explaining the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner or someone who can't understand the risk or learn the lessons along the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a lot of business owners, whenever they have those failures, they let that be the reason that their business didn't succeed.
Yeah, looking for an excuse. So.
Yeah, and if you take that adversity and say, well, what did I learn from that? How do I do better on the next one? Yeah, that's how your business succeeds.
Do we need to hear this stuff? And man, this is amazing. I love, though, that the way you talked about your vision and aligning all the different people. How many people do you have in your organization now? I guess just on the windows and door side.
We were up close to 500, and now we're down to about 315, I believe.
Because you've sold.
Yeah, we sold off a big chunk of it. We're going to add another business in the first quarter that I think will put us back around 360 or so.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and we've got the different divisions. So that's, you've got doors and windows, and I've got Kin Capital that kind of sits on top of all that.
Okay.
But then Kin Capital also has some other divisions. We have a crane business that we're relatively new into. We've got a millwork business that we're starting to grow as well. And so there's all the different pieces that.
It's unbelievable. Though.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy it. I love it. So let me ask you this, though, because so many people can't get outside of geographically their window. Right. Mm-hmm. And you have things in Vegas and New York and all these other. How risky is that? And what kind of temperament do you feel like you have that allows you to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think back to my first two businesses. We had the iron door business in Dallas and the wood door business in Atlanta. And then we realized you can't make these two work together. You can't make these two sell together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely risk there. you have to be smart about your growth. I think I learned that lesson really well. That first little mini failure and going, oh, okay, well, we still have two good businesses. They're in two good markets.
Yeah,
We're going to grow these businesses, but the thing that I thought was going to happen isn't going to happen. And so I had to grow from that. But over time, we've had this vision of being able to, deliver the highest end doors and windows anywhere in the country. Anytime somebody's building a $50 or $100 million house somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's not in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Correct.
You won't find one of those houses here.
That's right.
And so it wasn't going to happen here. It had to happen somewhere else.
Yep.
And I can try as I might to go to South Louisiana and then Mississippi and then Alabama and Southeast Texas and try to sell these super high-end doors and windows, and it won't work there either.
Correct.
And so it's a matter of figuring out where those needs are out in the world and addressing those. But the problem there is that, it's spread out. It's not like all of the wealth is sitting in the Hamptons and that's the one spot we're going to go.
Yep.
The wealth is sitting in pockets all over the country.
No doubt about it.
And so we had to grow in a way that let us address the whole country. Not necessarily manufacturing everywhere, but something about doors and windows that you probably don't realize is that they're very regional. It's not like a cookie cutter, one size fits all whenever it comes to windows around the country. You're going to see different styles in South Florida than you see in Georgia, than you see up in New England, than you see in Louisiana, and so on and so forth.
Is it both style and like weather related?
Yeah. So you've got wet climates and dry climates.
Yep.
That's a big thing. You've got hot and you've got cold. That's another big thing. But then also styles. If you think of New England, you think of wood painted windows. You put wood painted windows down in South Florida, you're going to have a whole lot of rot.
Yeah.
And so, they've developed differently there. You go out into the desert out west, they're looking for all the things that are going to, be very efficient because they've got, ridiculously hot sun that's pouring down on those windows. And so you got all those things at play. And then some of it's just style.
Yeah, sure.
You got, out in the West, you see a lot of like hand distressed stuff that we do. And so, we'll take beautiful wood and we'll, beat it up with all kinds of nails and screws and whatever else, try to put all these knots and little divots and stuff in it to make it look old and distressed. Whereas if you put that in New England, people would go, why do you have beat up doors and windows?
Yeah, correct.
They want to see that beautiful, clean painted look.
You have to have that mindset of being a lifelong learner, because look at what you've learned since you entered this space,
Yeah, it's been 5 years.
5 years, and about all of this stuff, and you're bobbing and weaving and making it happen, man. I love that. Now you're in the crane business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally oil and gas related, or?
Yeah, we've started oil and gas related. So it's out in Midland doing fracking work.
Got it.
And which I knew absolutely nothing about.
But you're gonna learn.
I've seen Landman, so
I
guess.
Oh man, you got it.
I guess that was a great start. But no, I know very little about fracking and the oil field world. Now I did a lot of oil related deals, but cranes out on frac sites, that is not something I knew about at all.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn on the fly, but that was a matter of surrounding myself with the right people, finding the right talent, and empowering those people to grow that business. And they're doing great. They're off to the races, really growing it. We should have about 20 cranes by the end of this month, and growing from there. I hope to be at 40 by the end of next year.
Yeah.
And we'll take it from the frac sites, and we'll start doing plant work and industrial work and construction sites and whatever else, and then you have a diversified business.
So what's neat about what you're doing is, well, that's a heavy asset, rich company. The manufacturing side, and then you're also selling, right? Mm-hmm. So you're hitting every expertise there is. Are you in any e-commerce place?
Well, my wife's business. That's about it.
Yeah. We've really focused heavy on leading, growing. Talk to me about your lifestyle, because I'm all about this difference between business owner mindset and workday and entrepreneur lifestyle and things like that. How have you created your company to serve your lifestyle?
Well, I had the cheat code, so I'm an acquisition entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And, most folks grow in their business from the start. And I've done that too. And it's harder whenever you grow it from scratch because
very hard, yeah.
you have to wear every hat when
Yeah.
you're growing it. You
Yeah.
know, whenever you are starting from zero and then you get your first employee and then your first 2 employees, like the business doesn't happen unless you wear all the hats. And so I've done that a few times. It's hard, at least in those first couple of years, to separate yourself and really create boundaries. It's a cheat code whenever you acquire businesses because you're figuring out what kind of capital do I need to have the right team to be able to grow this thing and be off to the races that way. And then it allowed me to put myself in a visionary role. We love EOS. We used to be an EOS company, but we kind of outgrew it a little bit, and we have to do it our own way. But it allows me to sit in a visionary role. Eric kind of sits in an integrator role. He tells our employees that he's the Jude whisperer. I come with these ridiculous ideas, and he has to translate them into action.
Yeah, that's right.
But I have 20 ideas for every 2 or 3 that we actually implement, and it works for us because if I'm able to spend all my time thinking about what's the next frontier, what's the next thing we're doing, what market are we getting into, what product are we going to build, what company are we going to acquire, it doesn't leave me constrained in the day-to-day of trying to squeak through on whatever tasks we have that day. And so I've got a lot of liberty to be able to think like that. The other thing, on the personal side, I live by the 5 F's, faith, family, fortune, friends, and then forget about it because everything else doesn't matter.
Forget about it. That's great.
You got to keep things in the right order. And, if you aren't putting the Lord first,
amen,
nothing else is going to work.
That's right.
Family is a close second behind that. And notice fortune's third.
Yeah.
Business matters a lot.
Yeah.
Giving your all to your business matters a lot. But it still comes behind faith and family.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes your friends have to understand that faith, family, and fortune come first. And
Sure,
so that's
sure.
why they're the 4th F. But by the time you've given your all to those 4 things, there's really nothing left.
Yeah, there really isn't. It's tough.
And so it's so easy whenever lots of other things come at you and it's always this, that, and the other. But if it doesn't fit in one of those first 4 categories, just forget about it.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I think that's a great place to end because that might be the biggest light bulb moment that we've gotten. But what would you say, a question that I didn't ask you that our audience needs to hear? Because again, you are speaking to my audience. Is there anything that you want to add to help them, I guess?
Yeah. So I imagine, you've got a lot of people in your audience, either who are in careers and feel like they're stuck in those careers, or, they ventured out into doing things on their own, being a business owner or whatever it is, but they're afraid to take that next step. How do I grow beyond where I am? And I think that's most people, whether you're in a career or you're in a business, there's this fear of the unknown. How do I push past it? And there's no easy answer there, except you're not going to grow unless you push past the fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing that people can take away. Whenever people say, "Oh, I just feel like I'm stuck because I'm in this career and I make a good paycheck and I support my family and whatever else," yeah, I mean, there is some truth in that. There's a lot of risk giving up that honest paycheck. But if you feel like you've always been called to do something entrepreneurial, always been called to do the next thing, find a way. For me, I was a lawyer and I wanted to start this investment bank and help business owners to sell. Well, here's a few things that happen whenever you start an investment bank. One, you have to find clients and convince them, that you're the guy to sell their company, which takes a long time. It's going to take a lot longer than you think it will. That's why most new investment banks fail. I mean, it's like most new businesses in general fail, but
Correct.
Most new investment banks fail, like very, very high rate of them fail. And that's because it's really hard to find people and convince them that you're the one to sell. There's all these established businesses out there. Why would you come to me? And so it takes a lot longer than you expect. And then secondarily, you finally land those clients. Well, I get paid on a success fee, which means that it might take me 6 months, 7 months, 8 months to sell your business. So it might have taken me 6 months to find you to be the client, and then another 6 months before I get paid.
That's right.
Well, that's a year, in case anybody's counting. Well, I was a lawyer before that. So I made good money as a lawyer. And whenever I was doing this, I was thinking about it going, gosh, that's so much risk. And then like, what if it doesn't even happen in a year? What if it takes 2 years before I hit that first one?
Sure.
And so for me, it was a matter of, well, let me talk to a handful of my very loyal, longtime legal clients and tell them I want to keep doing work for them just on a part-time basis.
That's right.
So that I can pay the bills for my family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, I couldn't go all in. I had a wife, I had kids, I had a house,
Yep.
We had rental properties and whatever, like all the things that you have to maintain in your life, and you can't just let all those things drop. I mean, sure, I could have just sold it all and said, we're going to deplete our assets to nothing. But I didn't go that route. It was, let me find, a way to embrace this risk and know that we're going to be okay through it. But I knew I wasn't going to keep my legal clients long-term.
Yeah.
It was a matter of how do I find the right way to pivot? And so, yeah, if somebody's sitting in that situation, thinking they want to be an entrepreneur and just not knowing how, well, I mean, the answer is you have to plan well and then white knuckle your way through it.
That's right.
If you're a business owner and you're constantly, struggling with, well, I want my business to get to the next level, but, I just can't quite get it there. Usually you're the problem.
Yeah, it's so true.
You are the thing standing in its way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I've seen over and over again. People tell me, oh, I just could never find the right people to help me get it to the next level. It's like, well, that's because you weren't willing to empower those people. And so that's always the big challenge as a business owner. How do I empower my people, give them the satisfaction they need? And I'll tell you, I'm a pretty intellectual guy, and most situations in business, I'm able to look at them and ballpark very quickly. Here's where I think we need to go. Here's the next step we need to make. Here's the next decision we need to make. And I learned very quickly, owning my own business, that if I understand what we need to do next, and then I go tell all of my employees that that's what we're going to do next, I'm going to get a lot of pushback from a lot of people because they didn't have any buy-in to that decision.
Correct.
And so when I say empower your people, I mean you go to them and collaborate with them to come up with a decision.
Yeah.
And maybe 9 times out of 10, it's the same decision you would have given them anyway. But now everybody's bought in. Those people are a part of the solution, and they grow with you. And I think that's the big challenge that most business owners have. They don't know how to get past that ceiling, how to empower people to get to that next level.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. I'm going to put in the show notes how you can find Jude. I hope that you find value in this episode. If you know somebody who you feel like would be a great guest on our show, or if you think you might, please reach out to me at jeff@getcompanygrowth.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.